Hello, welcome to the third session of the surface mount class, printed circuit boards. Actually, could somebody, no, let's keep the doors open, the fan feels good. It's kind of warm here today, it's going to be a hot one. Okay, today we're going to work on continuing schematic capture, and after we've done schematic capture, next session we'll get started on actually starting to lay out printed circuit boards, because that's where we're headed. So I'm actually going to be steering the display in back of me, and today we're going to do designing your own schematic component that you can draw in, because sometimes you can't find one that meets your needs. So with no further ado, let me do that. I need to, because the camera's here, just relocate you slightly. Does that work? Okay. Okay. So, thank you. So when you need a schematic component, the aspect ratio of this is completely wrong. Anyhow, we'll deal with it. You get started by bringing up the library editor. Okay. So you know this has the standard bubble helper thing. And they have two things here. They have a library browser, which is useful for browsing the various libraries. So if you want to look at the where's the device library? Most of the stuff I find that's useful is in device. You can just click on these things and it'll just show them to you. Okay. You can scroll down it and you get the idea. Oh, much better. But you can't edit from there. So if you need to create a new component, what you do is you start from the library editor, which is this one. And I'm going to have to resize it because this is a really old display. Okay, this is the library editor. And this is a pretty simple device. You know, there's not much to it. Now, I need to explain that libraries in KiCad I don't find intuitive. Okay? For me, the intuitive thing to do is you create a library that's empty first and you start putting things in. And that's not the way it works in KiCad. The way you create a library is you actually have to create a component first, and then you will create the library to put it into. The other thing is you can work with an existing library. Okay. Now, in the notes that I have put up on the home page, I have a fairly lengthy discussion about the KiCad library system. Okay, and that will sort of give you a clue as to what has to be done. So, I want to sort of start you with the library preferences. So we go with preferences, and we click on library. And there's two things going on here. There is, over here where my mouse is, this is the directories in which to look for libraries. Okay? And there's these down here, and then these are the ones that the user can add. So you have the hard-coded ones that they'll give you no matter what, and then you can add ones. Whenever you add a library, and I will do that just to show it to you, we're going to go click Add, and it's going to pop up a window, and I'm going to add one level up. No, let's go there. So we're going to add that as a library, and because this is a really small display, we have to get everything in. We're going to click Open, and every time it asks for a relative path, say yes. Okay, it's really important to use relative paths. The reason why is because that allows you to pick up your entire project and drop it someplace else, and it can still find everything. Okay, so so we've just added a relative path here. Now, that doesn't mean any of the this just means you can find libraries that are in there. Okay, so I have exactly one library in my Rev A directory. Okay, and it's this one. Okay, so you have to, if you have a pre-existing library, you have to go find it and you have to add it. Okay, so the way you add something is you click on the add button, and we're going to go click down there, and I've got one library here. I'm not going to complete this. I'm going to say open, and it says it's already in use. But that's how you add libraries to the thing. Now, when you have a library like this, there's a search order, and I believe you want these things up near the top. So you start pushing this thing up towards the top so that your libraries are found first. Okay? So this is the fun of the preferences. Now, we're not quite done yet. Okay, you hit OK, and it's mostly stuck. But you have to do one more thing. You have to go back to preferences, and you have to hit save preferences. Because if you don't do that, you get to redo some of this stuff. So I find that to be a kind of a clunky user interface, but once it's explained to you, you can get around it. Now that we have a library that we're going to work with, you have to select the library. And see this little open book icon there? This is, I'm going to zoom this in a little. Come on, zoom in. Okay. That's where you say which library you want to work with. So it says select library, and they're alphabetized. We click that one. And then if you look at the very top here, it tells you which library is the one you're working on. A lot of work. Do read the notes that I put the link to in the homepage for the class to refresh yourself, because you're just, you know, every time I go away from KiCad for 4 months and come back, if I don't read those notes, I can't remember how libraries work. That's just that's the honest truth. Okay, finally we get to create a part. Okay, I'm going to do 2 parts. I'm going to go pretty quick here. So how do you create a part? If you see this icon here with the little star on it, that says we're going to create a part. So it gives you a thing here, and you have to give it a name. Okay. In this case, I happen to know the name is the ELD 207. And remember those reference things, the U's and the C's and the R's? That's where you specify your part. And there's a lot of complexity in this that you can do for packages like, you know, quad NAND gates and stuff. We're not going to go into that complexity, but you can do it. So usually I just type in the part name and hit OK, and we're ready to go. And when you do that, suddenly the stuff on the right ungrays, and you can actually start to draw things. Now, this is just part of my lovely user interface. You see that little smudge in the middle of those crosshairs? Let's zoom in on that. So I'm using the mouse and the wheel to zoom in on it. Well, there it is. Now, why they don't sort of start up zoomed in on it, I don't know, but there it is. And what you can't tell is that there's actually 2 things over there. So using the mouse, I'm going to move the field, and there's one of them, and there's the other field. And we split them like that. Okay? So, so this is the name of the part, and this is the reference for the part. And you see that question mark? That question mark will get filled in later on when we generate our net list. Okay, The most common part that you will have to make is a box with pins on it. Okay? So the way you do that is you take the rectangle here and you draw a rectangle, kind of like that. If you get the size wrong, and that looks a little lopsided to me, so you can drag an edge one way or the other. Okay? So now we need to add some pins. The ELD 207 is a dual opto-isolator chip. Okay? So what we want to do now, and it happens to have 8 pins total on it, so we're going to add the 8 pins. So this is a pin thingy, and we go click, and it says, tell me what this pin is. So the pin has a label. A1 stands for anode 1, and it'll be pin 1. And you see this is what it's going to look like when we put it on the schematic here. So there's A1, there's the pin number. I don't like the default length of 3. I think that's a little long. So I shorten that up to 2. And that's about all I do to this. Later on, I'm going to show you what to do with the visible bit flag here, but not right now. So there's the first pin. And then let's make another pin. And this will be the cathode. And it'll be pin 2. And you'll notice remember that we're 2/10 long. We click OK. So it gets pretty fast here. I can bang these out in a real hurry. And then we do pin 4. And then let's do another one. Now I want to put them on this side, and I need to get the little thing oriented the other way. So we're going to make this a left-facing pin. So if you look at the big thing on the right, you just see we put the circle there. And this will be, I think it's collector. That'll be pin 8. That goes there.
What caused it to flip? Because it's on the other side?
Because I switched it to left. Did you? So I'll show you just a couple seconds. This is what flips it. So you can change the orientation using this stuff, and it just keeps track of it all. Okay.
That's EM2 or EM1?
It should be EM1, so we can edit these things. I'm just going to click OK so that we can do that. Okay, so what happens when you make a mistake? Well, you put the cursor over there and you edit the pin. So that should have been a 1. Likewise, I made a mistake here. So actually, before I do that, do they have copy pin? No, I don't see copy pin. So we'll make that be 1. Okay, so I'm going to stop on this. This is good enough. We need to add 2 more pins to finish it off. And then what you do is you save it. And the save thing has the little floppy disk, which I don't think you can buy anymore on it, but that means to save. And you click Save. And you say, it's going to ask you a bunch of pop-ups. You click Yes. And we're going to say store it in that library. We click Yes. We're done. Now, oops, we want to add 2 more pins. Let's add a couple more pins. Okay. We'll do collector 2. And then that'll be 6. Okay. And we'll drop that down. And we'll do one more thing. We'll do emitter 2. And we'll do pin number 5. Okay. And then there's one other thing I like to do on these rectangular parts is there's this thing called Edit Rectangle Options. And you see this fill style down here? I like to fill in the background. And it gives it a very light yellow. And it's a little easier to see. Let's suppose you say, that's kind of fatter than I want, and I want to move these things in. So you can take your pins here, just grab them as a group, and move them in. Take those like that. Yeah, that kind of works. And then we can actually go to this, drag the rectangle thing. And sometimes it doesn't come up with I hit the wrong one, sorry. Drag rectangle edge, like this. Okay, and then we can save.
There's no schematic.
What?
There's no
internals in this thing yet. So I'm going to show that next. Well, this lecture is running a little longer than I want, but that's okay. We don't have a YouTube limit. So I'm going to save this out and save it and save it. So it asks you like 3 pop-ups. You just have to click yes, 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 and now it's stored. So now what we're going to do is create a new component. Okay. And this is going to be a resistor. And I usually like to distinguish my resistors from vertical and horizontal. This is going to be a horizontal resistor. And, sorry, I've typed in the wrong field. R horiz. And this will be R for the reference. And we're going to click OK. And same thing, I've got to move these things around. Oops. Put that there. Do that here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to build a 1-bump resistor. People were here. I'm a 3-bump resistor guy, but Luke is a 1-bump resistor guy. We're going to go draw a 1-bump resistor. So this is a little tricky to understand, but once we've done it once, you'll get the hang of it. So we have to name the sides of the resistor pin. Okay, so I just use the same pin numbers. But you see down here where it says visible, this is going to be an invisible pin. Okay, it will not show up, and the coloring isn't great, but it kind of turned it gray. So we just click OK, and this is going to be the left side of the resistor. And then we're going to do it again. Drop another one down, and this one's going to be 2 and 2. We're going to click OK. And I have it oriented the wrong way, so I have to go edit the pin and change the orientation to right. Okay, and I'm going to move it over just a little bit. Oh, come on, cancel. Are they about centered? I can't tell. Going to knock it over 1. I think that's about it. Okay. So now, what we want to do is draw the resistor stuff. Now, if we draw on this grid, we won't get a very good looking 1-bump resistor. So I'm going to right mouse button and hit grid select. And you can't see it because let's try again.
There's 2 sets of numbers. One are the pin numbers.
One is the pin number, and one is the label for the pin. And because it's a resistor, you don't have to be very descriptive. So I'm going to take this down to 25 thousandths of an inch grid, so we have a better thing to draw with. And now I'm rushing here a little, but I go over here to the line drawing thing, and we're going to drag a line. You can see it's red. And I may not have this perfectly centered, but you can see how it works. And you notice I have to overdraw the pins because there's no way to. Okay, and the way you end the line is you have to do it with the mouse. You right mouse button, line end. There's no accelerator, which just blows me away. Maybe the end button works on the keyboard. I should try that sometime. So that's how you draw a component. Okay. So if you need to do something something that's got to be descriptive visually, this is how you do it. And again, we're going to save this. Okay, click on the floppy disky thing. We click yes, and yes, and it's in the library. Okay, so that's a quick introduction to the schematic editor. The footprint editor has a similar feel to it, so we'll be able to zip through the footprint editor when we get to it. But once you've sort of seen how one KiCad editor works, you've seen them all. So with no more discussion, I'm going to say sayonara and we'll go to question and answer.